Okay, even without pulling out the calculator on this thing, as it will take my computer down, there are now some things you have to realize that in addition to all the other tools you should be able to do efficiently on your calculator. So let's list them. All right, one is know how to work with a matrix to solve simultaneous equations. Simultaneous equations. Remember, you have to do the format ax plus by plus c z plus dt, etc. equals e, and then you need to do that all the way down. 1, 1, 1. So if you have this equation here, you're always going to have, for instance, you would need 1, 2, 3, 4 equations because you have 4 unknowns, so you would have a 4 by 5 matrix. That's number one. Number two, know how to use a list and the list setup editor. Know how to put things in list 1, list 2, list 3, list 4, etc. in a 2D problem, generally magnitude, direction, x component, and y component. Know how to sum the lists, right? How to get the sum of all the x's or all the y's. So dealing with lists, these two things right now are not programs, they're just calculators, calculator functions. Okay, so learning how to do that. We'll go down to the next one. If you cannot do these things, I will have a special session one more time, so you realize that in fact the calculator is a useful tool in the field and in front of a computer if you can kind of combine it with some sketching. So we have matrix to solve simultaneous equations, list to set up editor. I would let you know it's probably a good idea to know how to do graphing of equations and of lists. Remember how we generally want to keep the scales and the x and the y? We want them to be true, which it doesn't always do for us. So that was number 3. All right, let me now go to what we know that some of you have pulled out and some of you have not, but the things in menu U, particularly coord convert, which will take you from x, y, z to r, theta, phi, or from r, theta, phi to x, y, z. Remember, these are not set up for northings and eastings, but I would recommend you all figure out or talk with me how to get very similar programs to do that, so you don't have to kind of do what we saw as a problem in the past, deal with conversions. So coordinate convert is an incredibly useful tool. Know how to use W united, which really is not anything but taking x in the I plus y in the j plus z in the k. Getting inspired and learning a little bit by looking at Sal this morning. Taking them each by the magnitude of the square root of x squared plus y squared plus z squared. But remember, W united takes something in the x, y, z, I, j, k format and puts it in a unit vector. Right, so it's going to be some number times the unit vector I plus some number times the unit vector j plus some number times the unit vector k. And this vector is usually called lambda. It is a unit vector in the direction of the vector. And you're going to see we're going to come up to this point very soon where by taking the unit vector of the r vector, right, so the r lambda sub r and cross product with lambda sub f, we're going to have this really nice kind of sense, if you would, of how much our radial vectors and our force vectors are working together. And those two things, besides, I'm going to just write it in red across here, views, views, views. A lot of this stuff that we're doing here within structures is about more than what it appears we're doing. We're trying to get you ensconced in the world of vector calculations so you can get more proficient in basic drafting. And basic drafting nowadays is 3D drafting in addition to 2D drafting. So I got, so far, matrix to solve simultaneous equations. We have, in fact, graphing of equations and graphing of lists using coordinate convert without thinking, without even worrying about it, because one great thing that coordinate convert does is it puts things into the list R1 and list V1, and then you can put those things into maybe list U1 or list U or list V. So this is a great one because it kind of pre-calcs some of your vectors. There is little need nowadays to be doing the trig by hand if you can just kind of think proactively and creatively about your calculator. I will start making these little short exams as we go through these things, right, wrong, with some credit for showing a little bit of work. But we're looking here at some basic stuff, and we're giving you a lot of tools. All right, so we've got matrix to solve simultaneous equations, knowing effectively how to set up lists and the editor on lists, graphing of equations and lists, coordinate convert, W united. Let's go to a new screen and think about then that vector program. So this vector program, what does it do? Well, it sums the radial vectors, which is not real important. It sums the force vectors, which is, and it sums the moments. And it stores the sum of each of these in a matrix B. And matrix B is lined up. It doesn't need to be so dense, but it's the radial vector in the x, the radial vector in the y sum, the radial vector in the z sum, the magnitude of the radial vector, the unit vector. The last three things here are the unit vector. The first position is the radial vector sum. The second position is the force vector sum, and the third one is the moment vector sum. Very large. What this does not do, however, it does not keep track of input. Does not keep track of input. So in matrix A, you actually store the single vector pair. But then we get rid of it. So there is actually some value here to kind of taking matrix A and storing in a long matrix, but we did not do that. So remember, it stores the running total of these things in matrix B, which could be generally used even if you weren't putting forces here. You could just do it to solve and add up radial vectors. I don't know whether it would explode or not, but that's what you need to do. Figure out how to use the software that you have. Back again, matrix to solve simultaneous equations, list, setup, editor, graphing of equations, coordinate convert, W united, and that vector program. That is 6. You should be able to do those fast, efficiently, and you learn how to use them to go back and forth. You're learning how to use lists. Go back to the pen here. Lists and matrices. And of course, matrices are just lists of lists. The next thing to start to learn how to do is how to add and append. Add and append to your lists and matrices. All right, that's 6 things. We'll fill out the rest later, but if you work on those things, you'll have a tool for your toolbox that you should be able to carry many, many different places.